Welcome back, everybody. Mark McClure here with the Ruthless Entrepreneur Show with Mike Miller. And when we took off before the break, we were talking about mystery shopping, and I think a lot of people understand how that works. You know, you go into a retail outlet and they send people in to see how that person's doing. How do you apply it to the outside sales world? That's a pretty big component of your business.
It is, and the misconception is exactly that, Mark, is that people do. They think about retail, they think about hospitality and the customer service side. I've taken the spin where I want to address on the sales side. And just for an example, let's say we're talking about the home building industry, because I deal a lot with that. What we do is we'll send our shoppers in there and evaluate, act like they're buying a home and evaluate the sales process. Because here's what we're finding out. The industry is spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to hire guys like us to do sales training. First of all, they don't have a baseline. They don't know where they're at currently. They don't know what they need to train to, and they don't know where they want to go.
So they're trying to throw it against the wall, see what sticks, rather than doing the adequate research and then building the sales training around it.
Exactly.
Makes perfect sense. Okay. Competitive industry, or
it is.
You're following a niche market.
It is competitive. I am kind of in a niche market, but it's very competitive because it's the fastest growing industry in the industry, and it has been for the past 5 years. So if you think, there's a lot of people out there that do mystery shopping, there's not a lot of companies that do mystery shopping specifically to identify sales weaknesses and strengths.
Well, cool. And let's talk about, let's go back to sales a little bit here, because we all talk about, you know, the most important part of the sales process, people like to say, is closing the sale, closing the sale. But you got to know when the right time to close the sale is. And a lot of people don't know that, and that's what kills a lot of closing ratios for people. When, in your opinion, as far as sales, when do you think the right time to close the sale is? What do you look for from that person that tells you, you know, now's the time to ask?
I think it's going to be different for every prospect.
Yep.
And I think the problem with salespeople today is that they think it's exactly the same time every time.
Yep.
Normally, I think they're trying to close in the very beginning when there is the prospect will let you know. There's buying signals out there that you need to watch.
What's a big buying signal that you see quite a bit?
Well, I think you got to listen with your eyes and with your ears. People think we do a terrible job of listening in the first case.
2 ears, 1 mouth, twice as much listening. It's
there you go.
Done.
You got to do the 80-20 rule, and people don't realize that. But what they've got to do, they got to look at the buying signals.
Yep.
You know, if I'm sitting across from you and I'm kind of doing like this, or I'm constantly looking at my watch,
no interest.
They're going. They're out the door. Even no matter what they say, they're gone. But if I'm leaning forward and they're interested, they're asking questions, and guess what? If they're throwing out objections, that's a great buying signal.
Well, a big objection a lot of people get, and this is what separates the top performers from everybody else, is the ability to overcome, I need to think about it. But besides that, when that objection is thrown out there, people think, well, my God, it must be the money. Let's drop the price. Let's drop the price. How do you still overcome that objection without dropping the price? What technique have you found to be the best method?
Well, without getting into a whole lot of specifics, let's talk a little bit in vague terms. The whole idea, because most people, maybe 5% of the entire industry is really using a sales process. So that other 95% who are just showing up on third base and they're throwing up on their shoes, they're not really going through a process, which makes overcoming objections almost impossible, which makes asking for the close really very uncomfortable. What I teach is let's go through the process. Stop. Take a breath. Let's build a little bit of rapport. Let's really find out what the interests are.
The prospect will tell you how to sell it if you let them talk.
You better believe it. The prospect will make that sell.
They'll hand the deal to you on a silver platter. Just let them talk.
That's right. But as salespeople, we don't want to do that. We want to talk ourselves out of the deal.
Talk. It's unbelievable. We talked about, you know, and I talked to you on the phone before we came on here. I read your book, fantastic. You gave me some great information here. But you talk about staying on the prospect's agenda, and it makes perfect sense. But you're talking about when you're having trouble seeing them, trying to get in the front door. Explain to me how that's vital of staying on their agenda. What do you mean by that?
The acronym WIFM. What's in it for me? And not me as the salesperson, but what's in it for the prospect. The prospect really doesn't care unless they ask our opinion. So many salespeople, oh, if that was me, I would buy this car because of this, or I would move into this house because of this, or I would like to have the closet here. The prospect doesn't really care what we want because we're not the one that's writing the check. But as long as we're staying on that agenda and we're being truly and genuinely interested in what that prospect is saying, we have...
During the sales process, when you're talking to them. Okay.
Exactly. During that process, our chances of closing the deal probably go up tenfold.
I wouldn't doubt it. Well, that comes down to listening, though. and you know they don't listen. People don't listen, and you're a big proponent on listening skills. So you know what listening skills do you find to be most vital to the sales professional?
I kind of mentioned one of them was doing the body language.
Yep.
You're kind of listening with your eyes. And earlier in the show, I talked a little bit about this as well, is that you've got to be focused on, and this is staying on the agenda, being interested, but focused on that prospect. So when you ask them a question, instead of me thinking about what my next question is going to be, I'm really intently listening to what you're saying. I'm taking notes. I'm a huge proponent for taking notes.
It shows professionalism, too. They're like, wow, this person actually cares what I'm saying. But another big thing, when they're talking and feeding me that information, I'm molding the presentation in my head. So when it gets time to make the presentation, it's geared specifically to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like listen to them, finding those hot buttons,
Yep.
and creating that customized presentation that is just for them and not for anybody else.
Well, Mike, fantastic information here today. Just chock full of information. And if people want to get your book, Selling at Combat Speed, where do they go? Amazon,
Barnes & Noble, and go to our website anywhere
What's
out
your
there.
website?
www.primosolutionsllc.com.
And where are you based out of?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. Great show here today. We're not done. When we come back, I got some little more nuggets for you. Stuff you can take out in the real world and use to close more deals, overcome objections, and make more money. So again, Mike Miller, we'll be back here in about 2 minutes. Take care.